Cyril, how can a person's DNA make them more susceptible to COVID-19?
Absolutely. So the research that we're doing here at LifeDNA is specifically focused on the ACE2 receptor. So if you think of the ACE2 receptor, think of them as doors. And those doors are present in your lungs. And the coronavirus, which causes the COVID-19 disease, likes to attach to those receptors. So those receptors act as the entry point for the virus into your lungs. And when we're looking at DNA, there are certain individuals that might have more of those receptors in their lungs, so more of those doors, while others might have less. So genetically, if you have more of those doors, there is a higher chance that the virus can go into your lungs and infect you with COVID-19, as well as the chances of more of those viruses going into your lungs as well. So the research that we're doing here is to figure out which specific populations or groups have a bigger number of those receptors, therefore causing a higher infection rate of COVID-19 as well as a more severe course of the disease itself.
So with what you mentioned, does ethnicity play a role in the impact of COVID-19?
Yeah, so we know that different ethnicities have differences in their genetic makeup. Now, this is exactly what we're trying to identify in this study. We know that there is an impact that ethnicity has and DNA. What we're trying to identify is how big that impact really is and which ethnic groups fall in which categories. So part of the research is really focused on specific ethnic groups. And by the end of the study, we hope to have a concrete answer around that.
So could you tell us, Cyril, could you tell us more about the current research on, or the current study that you are undergoing right now? Where are you? Are you close to finishing? I know this is an ongoing study still.
Yeah, so we've identified the specific genes and genetic markers that we want to be focused on and we want to be looking at. We're also now soon going to be in the phase of recruitment. We're going to be recruiting as many people as possible for the study. We're looking for individuals that have either gotten tested for the coronavirus or have not gotten tested. Regardless, we're recruiting both. We're looking for different ethnic groups so that we can have a bigger sample size for the study. So the recruitment phase should be getting started within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, a lot of people, myself included, are definitely interested on the results of those studies. Now, Cyril, if you could help me with some social media questions that people have been posting. We have one from Simone, and she is asking, why are people all over the world affected by COVID-19 differently?
So there are many different factors that can impact your response to COVID-19. So demographics, so your age, gender, if you already have pre-existing conditions. A big one is your nutrition and your lifestyle. So all of those factors have a big impact. But as I mentioned earlier, at LifeDNA, we believe that DNA also plays a really big factor in the response to the virus and the disease. And we hope with this research, we're able to identify how big that factor is. But all of those are various factors that have a really big impact on why people are reacting differently across the world.
Okay, very good. We have another question from Roxy. She's asking, if a person was infected with SARS before, does that make him or her more susceptible to COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And although there's not enough data behind this yet, we have some predictions. Now, if you've already been infected with SARS, the first version of SARS, it might mean that genetically you're more susceptible to COVID-19 because it comes from the same family of viruses. Now, having said that, this might also mean that you have some of the antibodies from SARS that could potentially help you fight COVID-19 as well. So there's still more research to be done around that, but that's the thought process right now in the scientific community.
Right. So at least more studies are needed. So much more questions need to be answered. We have a third question from Quadro. He's asking, is our immune system affected by genetics as well?
Absolutely. Our immune system is largely affected by our genetics for a few reasons. So if you think of your DNA, think of it as the book or the instruction manual that builds you as an individual. It instructs for how proteins and different enzymes in your body are built. Now, sometimes that book has typos. So maybe a word is missing, or sometimes a whole sentence is missing. And when that happens, the enzymes and the proteins can work at half capacity and not at their full capacity. So a good example for that would be the absorption of certain vitamins. So if you have a specific genetic weakness in the absorption of vitamin D, for example, that can have a big impact on your immune system. And it might mean that you need more vitamin D than others, or maybe other ingredients that are going to help you absorb vitamin D better. And if you could take a look as well at a large number of autoimmune diseases like celiac disease, lupus, and even asthma, a lot of those are run from generation to generation. So a big portion of that is genetics. So definitely, genetics have a big impact on your immune system.
Thank you very much, Cyril, for sharing your research on COVID-19. But before we go, would you like to give our viewers a brief message?
Yeah, absolutely. So although genetics can play a big impact on your susceptibility to the virus, nothing really beats proper hygiene, social distancing measures. Here in Hawaii, we were able to flatten the curve successfully due to the fact that a lot of people essentially stayed home, started wearing masks. You can't go into a grocery store unless you're wearing a mask. So that message is very important. We're looking at identifying what causes the virus and what can cause a bigger course of the virus. But at the end of the day, it's extremely important to keep abiding by those rules.
That was Mr. Cyril Mukarzel from LifeDNA. Thank you again for your research on COVID-19. And we'd like to also thank our viewers for sending in their questions online. We will see you again on Monday, 3:30 p.m., only here on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Stay safe, everyone.